How to file a complaint with the New Brunswick Human Rights Commission. If you believe you have been discriminated against based on one or more protected grounds of discrimination, you can file a complaint with the New Brunswick Human Rights Commission. This process is free of charge, and you do not need a lawyer to file a complaint or participate in the process. The following video is a walkthrough of how to file a complaint with the Commission. It is meant to be watched as a companion to the completing the Human Rights Complaint Form document on the Commission's website. What will I learn? At the end of this video, you will be able to understand the do's and don'ts of filing a complaint with the New Brunswick Human Rights Commission, identify where to find the necessary forms to file a complaint with the Commission, correctly fill out each section of the Commission's complaint form, and file a complaint with the Commission. What should I know before filing a complaint with the New Brunswick Human Rights Commission? There are 3 key things to know before filing a complaint. 1. Filling out the form. The complaint form is a legal document, so filling it out properly is very important. The complaint form must be filled out to the best of your ability and submitted as one fully completed document, whether scanned/electronic or print version, and must include all pages in the original complaint form, even if you haven't written anything on them. If you are filling out the forms digitally, you cannot use an internet browser like Google Chrome, Safari, or Edge. You will need to download the forms from the Commission website, fill them out using free Adobe Reader software, and then send them to us by email, fax, or print and send by mail, or deliver in person to the Commission office in Fredericton. If you are filling out the forms manually, you can print them off and write by hand. If you choose this option, please make sure your writing is very clear. If Commission staff cannot read what you have written, the Commission may not be able to consider the complaint or may dismiss it. Once done, you can send the fully completed complaint form and all required corresponding forms by mail or email, deliver in person to the Commission office in Fredericton, or scan the handwritten forms and send them to us by email or fax. If you need more space, you can add pages to your complaint form, but you must number them and include them in the same scanned or printed document. If you cannot fill out a complaint form on your own and need an accommodation, a Commission staff member can provide support. That said, because the Commission must remain neutral in a complaint, we cannot give any advice on what information you should include in your complaint. Commission staff can only provide support writing out your statements on the form. 2. Medical proof. If your complaint is related to a disability or pregnancy, please be prepared to submit medical proof, like a doctor's note, confirming your diagnosis, and any other relevant medical information upon request from the Commission. 3. Time limit. Complaints can only be made about incidents that happened within the last 12 months. For example, if an employee is subjected to a discriminatory comment or action, and the instance of harassment occurred on January 1st, 2025, they have until January 1st, 2026 to file a complaint with the Commission. This time limit to file a complaint is stipulated by law in the New Brunswick Human Rights Act. Please call the Commission for more information if you wish to file a complaint about an incident that happened over 12 months ago. The Act does allow for some complaints to be filed beyond the 1-year time limit, so please speak to Commission staff for more information about this process. Where can I find the complaint form? Go to the New Brunswick Human Rights Commission website and click on the Complaint Process tab and then Filing a Complaint. Scroll down to the Forms section and download the 3 forms. A. The Human Rights Complaint Form. This is the form we will be focusing on in this video. B. The Contact Information Form. This form provides us with the best way to contact you. C. The Authorization for Release of Personal Info Form. This form allows the organization, service provider, employer, or person named in the complaint to provide to the Commission any and all personal information about yourself relating to your association with the organization, service provider, employer, or person in question. It also authorizes the Commission to ask about the history of your association with the organization, service provider, employer, or person by interview or questionnaire. How to fill out the complaint form, a step-by-step walkthrough. Since the Human Rights Complaint Form is the most important document when it comes to filing a complaint, the rest of this video will focus on filling out the complaint form using a mock scenario. All details in this complaint are fictional, including the name of the company, and have been created for the purposes of this exercise. Let's use the following scenario. Sophia, a marketing analyst at company ABC123, area of discrimination, employment, has been recently diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, MS, ground of discrimination, physical disability. This diagnosis impacts her mobility and energy levels. As a result, Sophia needs a workplace accommodation, including flexibility for doctor's appointments, a reduced workload, and an ergonomic assessment of her workspace. Sophia receives a note from her doctor which explains the need for these accommodations and provides it to her supervisor, Daniel. Even though Sophia notifies her supervisor and waits for a human resources evaluation, her requests go ignored. This causes Sophia stress and affects her job performance. After 2 months, Sophia is invited to a meeting with a member of Human Resources, Natalie, and Sophia's supervisor, Daniel. In the meeting, Natalie and Daniel tell Sophia that her accommodations have been denied, saying that they would cause a, quote, workplace disruption and that it would not be fair to other employees. Natalie and Daniel also decide to terminate Sophia because her performance on the job has gotten worse and she is no longer able to complete her tasks at work as per her contract because of her condition. Sophia decides to file a complaint with the New Brunswick Human Rights Commission on the ground of physical disability discrimination. Bearing this scenario in mind, let's fill out the Human Rights Complaint Form. Starting from the Commission's website on the Filing a Complaint page, scroll down to the Forms section. Click on A, Human Rights Complaint Form. It will come up in a new window that should look like this. If you wanted to print it off to fill it out by hand, you would click on the printer icon in the upper right corner of the page. A new window will open. Click Print. In this video, we will be filling this out digitally. To do this, click on the download symbol in the upper right corner of the page. It typically looks like an arrow pointing downward. Save it under your chosen file name. I would suggest adding your name to make it something like last name, first name, Human Rights Complaint Form. Using Sophia's scenario, it will be Clark, Sophia, Human Rights Complaint Form. Go to your Downloads folder and double-click the file to open it. Now we are in the complaint form. The square in the top right corner is for office use only. Leave it blank. This is very important. Section A. In Section A, enter your first and last name. This name does not have to match the one on your birth certificate or driver's license. It must, however, be the one you go by. In this process, you are called the complainant. In this scenario, your first name is Sophia, preferred name is Sophie, and your last name is Clark. The section below is for making a complaint on behalf of someone if you have a power of attorney or are their legal guardian. If that is the case, enter their full legal name and indicate if you are their parent, legal guardian, or have legal power of attorney by checking one of the boxes below. In this scenario, as Sophia, we are filling out the complaint form for ourselves, so we are going to leave this blank. Again, leave the section entitled For Office Use Only blank. This is very important. Once done, scroll to the next page. Section B. Section B is about the individual or group you are complaining about and you believe discriminated against you. In this process, they are called the respondent. A respondent can be a business, organization, association, or individual. You can name one or multiple respondents. However, only one business, organization, association, or individual may be named per box. As you can see on the form, there is a space for up to 5 respondents. Only enter one respondent per box. If you want to add more respondents, please attach additional pages at the end of your complaint form, entering the same information as in these boxes. In this section, enter the respondent's name. If the respondent is your employer, please put the name listed on your pay stub or T4. If your complaint is related to employment, name only the company or organization unless there are individuals within the company, like a supervisor, who have had direct involvement in the alleged discrimination. In that case, you may name both the employer and the individuals. Using Sophia's scenario, we would fill out the first respondent space with company ABC123's information, including the street name, town or city and province, postal code, email, and telephone number. The second respondent space would then have Sophia's supervisor, Daniel's information. The street name, town or city and province, and postal code would be the same as in the first boxes, as he works for the respondent company. Daniel's email and phone number can be personalized to him. In this case, it is his business email and phone number. The third respondent space would then have the human resources employee, Natalie's information. The street name, town or city and province, and postal code would be the same as in the first boxes, as she works for the respondent company as well. Natalie's email and phone number can be personalized to her. In this case, it is her business email and phone number. Once done, scroll to the next page. Section C. Section C is about identifying which area or areas the alleged discrimination took place. There are 5 areas of discrimination protected by the New Brunswick Human Rights Act: employment, housing and sale of property, services, facilities, or accommodation available to the public, publicity, professional business or trade association. Please refer to the Introduction to the Areas of Discrimination Guide available on the Commission's website to help you identify which area or areas apply to your complaint. Using Sophia's scenario, we would check off employment, since the alleged incident of discrimination happened at her place of employment. Section D. This takes us to Section D, which is about identifying the ground or grounds of discrimination of your complaint. Please note that the box in the upper right corner where it lists depression as an example of mental disability is simply there to show how to identify your ground of discrimination. This box will not be considered in the processing of your complaint. There are 16 grounds of discrimination protected by the New Brunswick Human Rights Act: age, ancestry, color, creed or religion, family status, gender identity or expression, marital status, mental disability, national origin, physical disability, place of origin, political belief or activity, race, sex, sexual orientation, and social condition. There are also additional protections for sexual harassment and reprisal. If you wish to file a complaint on the ground of reprisal, please contact the Commission for a special form. Please refer to the Introduction to the Grounds of Discrimination Guide available on our website to help you identify which ground or grounds apply to your complaint. You will notice that the form asks for you to identify the characteristics or diagnoses of the ground or grounds you select. This is basically a description. It can even be as short as one word of how you personally relate to this ground in connection to this particular complaint. This section is not a place to check off every box that applies to you as an individual. This is only to indicate the personal characteristics for grounds connected to your complaint. For example, Sophia identifies as a woman, but will not check the ground of sex because she does not feel her sex is related to the alleged discrimination she faced at work. In this scenario, as Sophia, we would check physical disability, as she feels her physical disability is the reason for the alleged discrimination and described her physical disability by providing her diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. If you are alleging physical disability or mental disability discrimination, you should provide documentation supporting your diagnosis that you submit along with your complaint form. As Sophia, we will submit the same doctor's note she gave to her supervisor, Daniel, when requesting her accommodations. Once done, scroll to the next page. Section E. This takes us to Section E, which is about identifying when the alleged discrimination took place. Even if this information is provided somewhere else in the complaint form or in any documentation you attach, you must include it here as well. Dates are important. If you run out of space, do not continue to write in the box, as the text may be cut off once you save the form in Adobe Acrobat. To add more information in this section, it is preferable to add a new page to your complaint form and number it accordingly, identifying that the additional information belongs to Section E. Start with adding when the discrimination started: year, month, day. Then, in the box below, briefly describe how discrimination started on this date, what happened when it started. In Sophia's scenario, the discrimination started when she handed her doctor's note to her supervisor on June 29, 2023. If the alleged discrimination is not ongoing, state when the discrimination stopped and briefly describe what happened when it stopped. In Sophia's scenario, the discrimination stopped when she was terminated on September 1st, 2023. Based on these dates, as Sophia, we should file this complaint before June 29, 2024 to ensure the full complaint is filed within the 1-year time limit. Section F. This takes us to Section F, in which you must indicate if you are or were involved in other proceedings dealing with the same incidents or allegations. If the answer is yes, click the Yes box and use the field below to describe what kind of proceedings it is or was and what the results were. For example, a union grievance or court case. If you settled the issue via another process, do not provide details regarding what the matter settled for, but do tell us that there was a settlement. We may ask you for the settlement documents after we receive your complaint form. In Sophia's scenario, the answer is no. Once done, scroll to the next page. Section G. This takes us to Section G, which is the all-important section where you tell the Commission why you think you were discriminated against. The instructions for this section are: for each ground that you checked in Section D, please describe what happened or what is still happening that you believe is discrimination. Please describe each relevant incident that you believe is discrimination in the order it happened from earliest to most recent. Section D is where we identify the grounds of discrimination in our complaint. In Sophia's scenario, we only checked off one ground, physical disability. However, in a complaint where you identified more than one ground of discrimination, you would have to describe what happened to you that you believe is discrimination as related to each ground. If you decide to add more pages to this section of your complaint form, please make sure to number any added pages and indicate that this information is part of Section G. Something important to keep in mind for this section is that the statement you give in Section G must support your complaint and relate directly to the areas and grounds in the New Brunswick Human Rights Act. Be sure to clearly describe each incident of discrimination or harassment you are claiming and make a direct link between your statement and the areas and grounds you checked earlier in your complaint form. For instance, using Sophia's scenario, if we use this section to write about alleged discrimination we experienced at a friend's house, not a protected area in the Act, on account of speaking a different language, not a protected ground in the Act, when, up until this point, we have set up this complaint to be about discrimination we experienced at work on account of a physical disability, then we, as Sophia, would have failed to make a connection between her situation and the New Brunswick Human Rights Act, which would make our complaint fall outside the Commission's jurisdiction. A proper use of Sophia's scenario would be to fill out Section G 1.1 like so. I, Sophia Clark, am filing this complaint regarding events that happened during my employment at company ABC 123 from June 29, 2023 to September 1st, 2023. I was recently diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, MS, a physical disability that significantly impacted my mobility and energy levels. To ensure I could continue performing my job effectively, I requested reasonable workplace accommodations, including flexibility for doctor's appointments, a reduced workload, and an ergonomic assessment of my workspace. I gave my doctor's note, which supported the need for these accommodations, to my supervisor and marketing manager, Daniel Tibbetts, on June 29, 2023. Daniel Tibbetts, marketing manager, despite receiving a note from my doctor explaining the need for accommodations and presenting it to him, Mr. Tibbetts, my supervisor, did not take any immediate action to address my accommodation requests. For a period of 2 months, I did not hear anything back related to my accommodation request. When I would inquire about the accommodations, Daniel would tell me that Human Resources was making final determinations on the matter. I was finally called to a meeting to allegedly discuss my accommodation request on September 1st, 2023. Natalie Theriault, Human Resources Lead. In a meeting held approximately 2 months after my accommodation requests on September 1st, 2023, Ms. Theriault, the Human Resources Lead, along with my supervisor, Mr. Tibbetts, informed me that my accommodation requests were denied. During this meeting, they cited concerns about workplace disruption and fairness to other employees. Additionally, they decided to terminate my employment, explaining that my performance had deteriorated and I could no longer fulfill all my job tasks as per my contract due to my condition. When I tried to explain that I could continue working my job, but with the slight changes to my workload, they told me that the fast-paced nature of our work did not allow for accommodations or changes to workload. These actions and decisions by both Mr. Tibbetts and Ms. Theriault directly connect to the discrimination I experienced due to my physical disability. Their refusal to provide reasonable accommodations and subsequent termination of my employment were unjust and discriminatory based on my physical disability, which I believe violates the New Brunswick Human Rights Act. On the next page, there is a second part of Section G, referred to as Section G 1.2, which gives the complainant a space to describe the negative impact of the alleged discrimination. Using Sophia's scenario, this section should be filled out like so. The negative impact of these events on my life has been significant. Firstly, the prolonged denial of reasonable accommodations increased the effects of my multiple sclerosis, MS, on my health and well-being. The constant stress and anxiety coming from the uncertainty of whether I would receive the necessary support only worsened the severity of my symptoms. This constant worry led to increased fatigue, muscle weakness, and worsened mobility issues, making it even more challenging for me to manage my condition. Furthermore, the feeling of inferiority and exclusion in the workplace was emotionally draining. I couldn't help but feel like a burden to my colleagues due to my need for accommodations. This sense of inadequacy led to feelings of isolation and negatively impacted my mental health. It was disheartening to see my once productive and fulfilling career unravel due to circumstances beyond my control. The whole situation made me feel very discouraged. Financially, the impacts were substantial. The termination of my employment at company ABC 123 left me not only without a source of income, but also with increasing medical bills related to the increased flare-ups of my condition. the stress of financial instability made the physical and emotional toll of the discrimination even worse, making it harder to access the medical care and support services. Something to bear in mind for this section is that for each separate incident of discrimination, you must identify the date when it happened, year, month, and day if possible, as well as where it happened, when it happened, and who was involved, as seen in Section 1.1, what happened and how it is connected to the grounds and areas you selected in Sections C and D, as seen in Section 1.1, what each respondent did or said on the date of the incident by stating which respondent you are talking about and what that respondent did or said, as seen in Section 1.1, and how this negatively impacted you, as seen in Section 1.2. As you can see with Sophia's example, we have covered all of the above in Sections 1.1 and 1.2. You can also include additional documentation like letters, text messages, record of employment, medical notes, and so on to support your allegations. Once again, please remember to number each page added. You may redact by covering or removing information on the supporting documentation if needed. This can be done with whiteout or a black permanent marker. Please note that everything you include and/or attach in your complaint form will be shared with the respondents, depending on the stage of the process. If you send supporting documents that are not referenced in the complaint form, you can advise the Commission that you do not want the information in those supporting documents shared with the respondents. That said, if something cannot be shared with the respondents, then the Commission may not be able to use it when making decisions about your complaint. The next 2 pages in the complaint form are opportunities to describe a second incident and its negative impacts. However, using Sophia's scenario, we do not need to fill these out. Once done, scroll to the last page. Section H. This takes us to Section H, which is the final section of the complaint form. Be sure to carefully read all the statements in Section H before checking the box beside each statement. These statements include 1. Acknowledging that you understand the Commission may send a copy of your complaint form to the respondents. 2. Acknowledging that you understand the Commission may send any supporting medical documentation and other important documentation to the respondents during the complaint process. 3. Acknowledging you understand that you need to provide the Commission with any changes to your contact information and to respond to Commission staff when contacted, and that a failure to do so may result in your complaint being closed as having been abandoned. You must also check and date at the bottom of Section H in the space provided. By submitting the complaint form, you are stating that the information you are providing is true to the best of your knowledge and belief. How do I submit my complaint? We have now successfully filled out the Human Rights Complaint Form together. Now it is time to submit it. Before submitting your complaint form, make sure you have completed and are also submitting the Contact Information Form and Authorization for Release of Personal Information Form. As mentioned earlier in this video, you may submit your complaint by email, fax, mail, or by dropping it off in person. You can email it to us at hrc.cdp@gnb.ca, fax it to us at 506-453-2653, mail it to us at 751 Brunswick Street, Fredericton, NB, E3B 1H8, or drop it off in person at the same address. No matter how you submit your complaint, you should receive an acknowledgement of receipt from us. If you do not, please contact us. Send us an email at hrc.cdp@gnb.ca or call us at 1-506-453-2301 or toll free at 1-888-471-2233. additional resources. For more educational resources on your rights and responsibilities in New Brunswick, visit the Commission's website at www.gnb.ca/HRC-CDP. Explore our FAQs, plain language flyers, guidelines, e-learning, and more resources to continue learning about various human rights topics. If you have questions about your rights and responsibilities under the Act or would like to discuss a human rights situation, you can contact the Commission by email at hrc.cdp@gnb.ca or by phone at 506-453-2301 or toll-free at 1-888-471-2233.